Yeah, follow on My name is Tavita, and I am joined on my left here a bearded drinker of tea, eater of food, wanderer of words, and cultural enthusiast too.
Malombula from Fiji.
Sir, we have the author and host of the podcast hashtag Samoa on Anchor, son of Samoa, pro wrestler, and cultural enthusiast, Maosi.
Ya malu lava sa Samoa, langi mama, pa iyo malu sa mo lo sa kuna bai. Ni fa sa nonga ya, mo le ato ya ngang fa ta ya si uto. Tu sai mau tu sa pa pa mo mo ne ya lo fa tu sa ta.
And then we have son of Nanakuli, famous one from Oahu, king of Kainao, or at least if not for all the bannings that he's taken. Like,
Oh, there, you caught me off guard with that
and then one of our finest sources of resources, a true cultural enthusiast, Rupeni. All right, thank you for joining us, gentlemen. The first topic on our list for today is tribal relationships, which is a topic submitted by Tu. So I'm going to hand it over to Tu. Take it away.
Naka. Oshak. So I bring up tribal relationships because one of the greatest questions in and around Fiji is whether or not this is something that is unique to Fiji, that is intertribal relationships. See, in Fiji, we have a pyramid structure when it comes to relationships. So first you have the person, and after the person comes the vuvale, or the family, immediate family, right? And then after the immediate family comes tokotoka, which is the extended family. And then as it goes higher, you come up to matangali, which is the land-owning unit, or descendants of a common ancestor so many years ago. But at that point, everyone just calls each other cousin. Whereas at tokotoka and vuvale, it's either na, ta, dead mom, and siblings. You refer to those in tokotoka as your brother or sister. Yeah. But under Matangali, everyone is cousin. Everyone outside of the tokotoka is your cousin, unless someone gets married within the tokotoka, which is very rare. But then above Matangali comes Yavusa, which is a clan. And under clan or over clan is Tikina. Now, Tikina, a lot of people, we've come to define Tikina as the area over which we are from. So therefore, I am from the island of Oneata, so my Tikina is Oneata. My Yavusa is Tabanga, and Matangali Tabanga. So everything down the line comes to Tabanga until we come to Tokotoka, which is, and the name of my Tokotoka is Nukuruve. So this thing that's special about this relationship is, even though we are a remote island, or not really a remote island, we're an island, or Tikina is an island, we have relationships all over the map of Fiji. We have places where we know our ancestors were siblings, or our ancestors were cousins even. So what I'd like to pose to you, I'd like to pose a question to you, my Polynesian brothers and such, whether or not you have this also where you're from.
Question posed. Leka, you want to go ahead and answer what you can?
My experience. I talked to Vita about this subject before for a little bit, but how I grew up with my parents, them is all my first cousins is my brothers and sisters. There's no first cousin. That's my brother and that's my sister. Done. After all of that, there's no first, second cousin. There's just your cousin. You know what I mean? So when I told Vita, when I first met my wife is Hawaiian, and she told me about, oh no, that's your second, third cousin. And I was like, I don't know what you're talking about. You know what I mean? The way I raised is, if that's your cousin, that's your cousin. But your first cousins is your brothers and sisters. And I don't know about the clans and stuff. We just is this all about villages where my mom and dad is from? I'm 100% Tongan. So we put more towards my dad's side because my dad's from Valtu. That's on the main island in Tonga. And my mom is from Ha'apai, where her village is Ha'afewa. It's on a different island. You gotta go on boat from the main island. But everybody from my dad's village, I'm related to. That's it's blood already. And even my mom's side. So for like answering your question, I have, and even uncles and aunties. Even though, like, I'm related. How can I explain it? I have a cousin, uncle, that's like 60 years old, but because how the bloodline, wait, he's in Palangi way, he's my cousin. Wait, no, wait. Palangi way, he's my uncle, but Polynesia way, he's my cousin. Wait, yeah, that's how. Italian way, he's my cousin, but in Palangi way, he's my uncle.
If I may just really quickly, I remember I was talking to one of my friends from the US, and she was raised in the US. And when she was explaining a kinship, she said that this person was her cousin. But when I asked her, how is this person your cousin? She said, oh no, because that was her mom's cousin. I said, how is that your cousin if that's your mom's cousin? She said, no, that's how it is in America. Anyone your age is your cousin, no matter how they're related to your mom or your parents. So it was really weird for me.
Yeah, it is weird. Yeah.
The system there is really strange. It's oh, that's your third cousin's 2 times removed or whatever. I couldn't make heads or tails of that. But Malsi, did you want to weigh in on that, on the terms and terminologies and families in Samoa?
I don't have like. So when I first heard about this topic, I tried to find equivalents in the Samoan way of viewing how we look at families, and so we do have the individual, first of all, myself, and then the individual families, which would be the Ainga, your nuclear family or your immediate family. And then after that, it does get a lot more complicated because there's 2 ways of looking at it. Because in Samoa, your relationship between families and between yourself and the titles can be looked at 2 different ways. Because if you're blood related to a land or a title, but it's very, very weak, I mean, they don't count that genealogy sometimes on that line. If you understand what I'm saying, you could be blood related to somebody, but because it's so distant, they don't consider it anymore. But that's, like I said, it's you look at it a different way when you're going for titles rather than if you're looking at it from a genealogical perspective. From what I know, we do have clans, and from what I can discern, the closest thing that I can describe what a clan is in Samoa would be Farakama, because each title, when you're looking at it title-wise, they have different Farakama. So there would be different ways that you descend from a certain title, and each Farakama has its own, its own right to the title. So you would, what's it called? You would be a representative. You know what I mean? Each Palikama would have its own representative to get it, to vie for whatever title you're going for that time. Beyond that, there are recognized familial connections. And like what you guys said about the whole, how, the westernized way of looking at it is that somebody who's older than you, somebody who may be the same generation as your parents, they'll be considered your cousin. And that's, I guess it's more of a language thing than it is, how we actually really, because as Polynesians, we respect elders to that degree where we put them on the same level as our parents. But the name that we give them in English would be cousin, because that's how they've come up, that's the organization that they've come up with to describe how that person is related to you. So basically, once people are removed, so like say your grandparents are a brother and sister, so anybody beyond that is no longer an uncle; it's second cousin, and then depending on how far back the generation, so grandfather, then like grandfather's sister's children or brother's children, it would be second cousin, and then great grandfathers and so on. So the farther you go back, that's where you get the second, third, fourth removed and all of that from. The farther you go back and then relate back down, it doesn't matter to them so much the age, but where the parallel lies, if you understand what I'm trying to put down. Whereas in our case, even if we were to know the relationship between us, I think so. Thank you. Even if we were to know the relationship between us is a cousin relationship, if that person is older, we do respectfully refer to them as Tina, Tama. We give them, that respect because that's how our culture dictates. What I want to say is that, like, the whole thing that Tu is trying to propose to us right now about whether or not we do acknowledge these relationships within within the Samoan culture, we do. But I want to say that we don't do it so much on a daily basis. Like, we may know somebody is our cousin, distantly related, but the only time that it comes up, the explanation of the relationships comes up is during Palavilavis when they show up, and then we have to explain how people are related to each other. It's not so common. You know what I mean? That's my understanding of it, and that's been my experience with it. Is that we do understand the relationship, and actually, to be somebody who's well versed in the relationship, that's sought after in Samoa. I mean, if you can retain that kind of information of how you related to this person, how to relate to that person, it honors them because you acknowledge them, you show them respect by knowing who they are and what your relationship is with them. That's basically it in a nutshell. If you have any more questions, feel free to ask. But that's basically my understanding of what Samoans view, the hierarchy of everything. One last thing. So what's really interesting about the island of Tutuila, which is where my ancestors come from, is that one half of the island is considered under one family. So you have one half of the island that's all Sa Malia Toa, and then you have the other half of the island which is all Sa Tupua. And what that basically means is that we all descend from one man eventually. It's probably a long journey going back to the history, but we can all trace our ancestors back to one person in the end.
Thank you, Mausi. Rupeni?
Yeah, just a quick question though, and just to expand further on what Tu mentioned. What I wanted to know was that here in Fiji we also have, we have traditional links. For example, if someone from my village, we would call each other Kai, or for example, someone from the Western village would call each other Tau, and there are these certain relationships. It's highly valued here, even today in the Fijian culture. For example, those who are from the West, we call each other Tauvu, and they can come into a house. They can literally they can come into a house and take whatever they want. But back in the day, it was because of traveling. Our ancestors would travel from places to places, and to ensure that you wouldn't have to ask for food, they would have this relationship where you could just go into a person's house and take the food without asking. Not in a disrespectful way, but to show that my home is open to your home. My question is to you all: is that do you have the same relationships in your countries also?
To go further into that, it's actually the relationship of Tauvo and such. It denotes a family link between our ancestors actually, and what we've come to call our ancestral gods, the Vu, that is. So when you say Tauvu, it means that your two gods were actually brothers or siblings. So there's Tauvu, there's Vetambani, and this actually occurs between the Tikinas. So normally in such cases, we might have Tauvu who just walks into your house and he can do as like, he's not accorded as a guest, he's accorded as a owner, you might say. So he's not told, oh, you can't walk there, you can't go there. The same rules that apply in your house apply to him in the same manner. So yeah, so the question would be, do you guys have that kind of thing in Samoa or Tonga?
Luca, you want to go ahead? Go
Yeah.
ahead, Luca.
I think we have something similar to that, which is called the fahu. I think it's my youngest sister's kids. My youngest sister's kids are my fahu, so it's like they can do whatever. Back in the day, they could do whatever they like. If your fahu come in your house and take your wallet, you cannot do nothing. You know, your younger sister's kids, they put them higher than you, like you're like the I don't know how to explain it, but like in funerals and stuff, if you pass away, your fahu will get everything, all the money, all the koloas we call, like the ratus, the tapa and stuff, and the food will go to your fahu, which is your sister's kids. So my dad and my mom always tell me better be nice to my youngest sister before their kids come. And my sister could tell them, you tell her kids go slap your uncle, and I cannot do nothing. It feels back in the day, you know what I mean? It was back in the now. It's just for like funerals and like special occasions when the fahu comes up and they get all the, like when they cut the hair for the funeral, they put the money on top of their hair and they're crawling to the fahu. So only the fahu cuts their hair. And sometimes if the fahu is like excuse my language, if your fahu is like the B word, she'll cut it short. You know what I mean? But if your fahu is nice, then she'll just take off like a little snip. So it's up to the fahu whenever it comes to funeral, because if she hates you, man, she'll just you're gonna have a bald spot right here, and you can't do nothing about it.
Right on. Thank you. Mouse, you want to sound off?
Yes, thank you. Yeah, I like what the Toko was saying, because that reminded me that a lot of these particular relationships are dictated on the sex of the relative. So relationships between brother and sister were more, they were more respected than a relationship between a brother and brother. So like
Sacred.
he was saying, if your sister's kids, they have certain say, and there's words, they're in the Samoan dictionary, but they escape me right now. But they dictate a different relationship between male and female relatives as opposed to male on male. And I didn't experience much of this in American Samoa and Samoa, in all my time that I lived there and interacted over there. But I want to say that this was more evident in Marshall Islands a lot. In Marshall Islands, and they did have privilege. I mean, so in Marshall Islands, the descendants of a female relative had privilege over the descendants of a male-to-male relative. Even to the point where if you were of the same sex, like say you and your sister, or if you had a cousin who was the same sex as you, they were allowed to marry. Marshall Islands. This was something that was not out of harmony with culture, because it wasn't in Samoa we have is called the fialanga, which is the relationship between a brother and sister, and there is no fialanga if the relative, if the two if the two relatives are of the same sex. So if it's male to male or female to female, they're allowed to get married, and there's different privileges that they have that is different, and it's more sacred if it is a male to versus male to female. So that's what I wanted to put about that.
Thank you, Mousy. Two.
One thing I wanted to also, like Mawasi pointed out, the relationship between a male and a female sibling. Now that's what we usually call vinganin. Siblings of the same gender, they are vitadini, and of the opposite gender, that's vinganin. And in such cases, their children have a different, how their children relate to each other and relate to you is also different. So where my brother's kids, they would call me dad, ta, right? So by default, if something happens to their parents, I would take them into my house as my own kids. Yeah. So, and they would be accorded the same rights as my own children. And even when we meet up, we treat them the same. So they would call me ta. Their aunties would be called na. However, my sister's kids, so the fahu, as you say. So my nephews, they would call me momo, and I'd call them wungono or munrau. So what happens is, anything about them, I have to be there. If there's something going on, if they get married or whatnot, I will also be notified. And there's a whole level of respect in the way notification ought to be brought to me. And when he dies, it'll be me who takes over his burial, or my mother's relatives, my vasu. So my vasu would be the one who take over my burial. So normally when he say, yeah, look after your vasu well, because they're the ones who are going to bury you when you die. But yeah, and the thing is, and it transcends generations, this kind of thing. So we even have, like I said, we keep the relationship between the old gods, you might say, or our ancestors. So in Fiji we have Tauvu, which is where the two gods were siblings, they were brothers. But in cases where they were brother and sister, then the relationship changes drastically, because whereas Tauvu, you have to treat them with the same degree of respect. But where the gods were brother and sister, then they are Vitambani. So all respect goes out the window. You can tease them as badly as you want. You can take their stuff however you want. You just walk in, you take the stuff, you walk out, and they can't do anything. I can't do anything if somebody like that did that to me. Maybe try, but still. But yeah, that is like I said, that's intertribal. Like it transcends location even. And there are, like, sometimes someone from Amatangali will go and settle somewhere else. So those two, they don't, because the relationship weren't really defined as sibling. If they meet each other, they'll call each other Matangali. Because even though they're no longer in the same area, they still came from the same, came under the same Matangali. So in this manner, Fijians have been able to keep track of our relationships, no matter where we are or whatever situations we're in. So whenever these kind of things happen, you'll notice on Twitter, we'll be talking to each other, cursing each other out, but we'll be laughing at the end. I promise you that. But yeah, that was all that I wanted to say about it.
Thank you. You look like you wanted to say something, bro.
No, I just wanted like for funerals, there's I forgot how you say it in Tongan. It's a one person like the fahu, but it's the okay, wait, okay. My dad's family come from 7 sisters. Yeah, one sister is my dad's side, and then the 7 families from my dad's village. All of them came from 7 sisters. The oldest of the sisters, when somebody passed away, the oldest kid, or whoever the son, if the kid, if the dad dies, then they pass down to him. You know, it's the kid or the dad. He is the one that runs the whole funeral for the whole family. So back in the days, my dad used to tell me, back in the days, if that guy, like, you know, the fahu for cutting your hair, if that guy hated you, your funeral he would destroy your funeral. But nowadays, whoever's that one person that is the boss of the funeral, he just listens whatever the wife say or the kids say. You know what I mean? So whatever the wife or the kids or the past or the husband, he's the one. They just tell him what to do, what to say, and then he just say it. You know, out of respect now. You know, they don't go traditional now. It's just the kids or the spouse just tells him what to do, and then you just say it, and everybody has to listen. But in sometimes they fight. They fight over who wants to like they think they should be the person running over it. Oh, and then they start going down the tree and stuff, and they literally argue when we drink kava. It's like, no, I'm the one. I'm supposed to be out there. No, I'm the one. And then other people jump in. So sometimes funerals can be so damn freaking irritating. But yeah, that's all. That's all.
I think that's a universal thing right there.
Yeah.
That I'm gonna show you. Like one of these days, I'm gonna show you. We actually had the discussion before. It was between Tu and Nico. It's a really good, and it covers some of these things. I gotta remember to show it to you at some point.
Shoot.
Have a whole lot to contribute to this, so I was waiting to be the last one to say something it's really minor. But when we're talking about family terms, the only thing that I could think of was that, like Nico had said at one point before, it's the same Tonga and Samoa. You don't call your parents by Tama or Tina. You don't call them father or mother. You call them by their first names. So if your dad's name is Tali, then you don't say, oh, Tama or dad. You call them Tali. But you would, older folks, not just grandparents, but older aunties and uncles that were, regardless of whether they're cousins or uncles, auntie status, if they're older, like grandparents' age, then you would say Tina or Tama respectfully. But not typically do kids in Samoa call their parents, oh, mom or dad. I mean, we're westernizing, sure, but if you go like to Savai or Manono, then you're gonna see the kids will, they call them by their first names there. And that's all I had for this subject. Does anyone have anything they want to chop in last second? Any questions or final comments on the matter? Go ahead, Mosi. Sorry, go for it.
So with the way the language is set up, is that within Samoan principles, we never show respect to ourselves. So anything that's immediately related to ourselves, that being like our parents, our children, the respect never goes directly to within us. But it's interesting because if you meet somebody who you've never met before, you immediately use the most respectful terms. Even to the point where, like, if you meet a woman who's older than you, that isn't, say you've never met this woman before, but you know that she's older than you and you know that she's a woman, the term afionga, which is something that is reserved for the highest chief, you use that to address a woman in that situation. And it's always been like that in Samoa. I mean, we use it to kind of show status. I mean, just the language itself is really about status. And it shows respect by acknowledging that status whenever you use it.
Absolutely. Anyone have anything to add? No? Going once, going twice? All right, cool. Thank you. And that's the book on tribal relationships.